Hey, I'm Tiffany Shepis, and you are listening to Don't Go Out There. You heard it. Don't go out there. There's only bad things out there. There's serial killers, there's crazy action figure people, there's puppet people, there's bears. Don't go out there. But what you should do is listen to this podcast. I'm Tiffany Shepis. Thanks.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all of our fans and listeners. Really appreciate all support. You guys are awesome. Sorry about missing last week. Just a really cluster of a schedule for all of us. But we're going to do it. We're doubling up this week. But before we get into tonight's movie, we just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Everything about our podcast is on the website. I can't compliment Brian enough. He's done a great job. All of our episodes and interviews from episode 1, A Nightmare on Elm Street, to the weekly releases there. We've done some incredible interviews in the past. Check out our interviews tab. It's a lot easier to find those interviews on there instead of scrolling through almost 300 episodes on Apple or Spotify, etc. Check out the website. We also have a store. We have some new T-shirts. We have some tumblers. Jan's Etsy page is attached. We have hoodies if you want to check that out. You work in an office, get you a mouse pad. We have all that cool stuff. And I want to shout out our social media links: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Like us, subscribe us, follow us, all that good stuff. We love interacting with our fans. We love reading your comments and questions on the air every week. So definitely check us out on social media. We love interacting with y'all. And I want to shout out our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have a traditional monthly reoccurring kind. None of that money goes into our pockets. It just goes directly back into the podcast, to where we host our files, where we make YouTube videos, our website, all that kind of stuff. That's all that money goes to. And we really appreciate all the help. Or you're a big fan of a movie, you're like, man, I would like for them to review that movie. We have that option available as well. Just check out our website on Blood Donors. Tonight is our third entry in Women in Horror Month. Tonight is my choice. I chose 2021's Last Night in Soho. It's one of those movies that, kind of just watched on a whim, and I really liked it. And, after the couple of rewatches, I still think this is a great movie. Thomasin, McKenzie, and Anya Taylor-Joy both do a fantastic job. And Diana Rigg, R.I.P., her last performance. She was fantastic as well. I will say that I do have some nitpicks and things I don't like, which I'll get into in the film review. But I think this is a very good movie, and we had a comment on Instagram say they wish they saw it in theaters. I wish I would have saw this movie in theaters as well. Brian, what are your thoughts?
So I think I said this when we did Shaun of the Dead, but I'm definitely an Edgar Wright fan, so I was excited to hear that he helmed this one whenever it was coming out. And just to get straight to the point, I thought it was fine. I thought it was a good movie. I just don't think I'll probably sit down and ever watch it again. Like, it has really low rewatchability for me. And I've seen it 3 times now, but every time I watch it, I find more issues with it in my eyes and things where I'm like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. Spoiler alert, I'm jumping ahead, but I've kind of come to not like the ending, to be honest. Now, as you come to expect with any Edgar Wright movie, it's visually stunning. I think Anya Taylor-Joy is, I've said it on here a million times, one of the best actresses out there right now. She was maybe a little bit underutilized, or maybe I just felt that way because I'm used to her being the lead. I don't know, but you mentioned Thomasin McKenzie. She does a great job in her role for sure. It was good to see her again after Old, which seems weird to say because it came out the same year, but I saw Old way before this one. Anyway, it was fine. I'm looking forward to getting into it and asking you guys some shit that I still don't understand about it.
Yeah, so I'm kind of right there with you, Brian. Like, I like this movie, but I almost like this movie more for its art, its art style, the way the movie is presented, the filmmaking. Like, I actually like the movie more for that stuff than I do the actual script and story. Again, the acting performances, we've talked about it a lot already, but Anya Taylor-Joy is great. Thomasin McKenzie is great. Diana Rigg is fucking phenomenal, especially in the last 20 minutes. Like, it's really good acting mixed with incredibly visual, incredible visuals of filmmaking. So that almost distracts me when I watch it from the story that I don't really love. Like, clearly this movie is going into traumas and, people that suffer these things, and I think it's doing it a little bit of a different way than a lot of other horror movies we've seen lately. You know, Smile, Barbit, like all these other movies that have tackled trauma. I feel like this one takes a little bit of a different approach, and I don't necessarily like or dislike it. Kind of like Brian, it's just kind of okay for me as far as a story. But everything else, I think, is really good. Like, again, the filmmaking part of this, it is a visual, like, I have no other word to describe it but cool. Like, there's just something cool about the way this movie looks. The lighting, the way they use the sound as a character quite a bit, where they kind of ramp up the volume in a few places that, you know, it's really hard to get me to kind of feel, you know, unnerved. And it kind of does that. So it has some effectiveness on me personally. But the story's a little weak. And you talked about the ending. I think I like it a little more than you, but I'm kind of still right there with you, man. I don't know what I would have done, but I don't know if I would have done that personally. So, and the story is where the movie falls a little flat for me. It's good. It's not great. I know I do this a lot, but I don't think this movie had to be an hour 57 fucking minutes. There you go.
So I watched this movie a couple months ago, and I remember when it was over, I was like, huh, okay. Like you said, Brian, I don't think it's a bad movie, but I don't love it. Now, it's visually beautiful. It's a gorgeous film, I think. I love the colors, the color themes that we get. I love the lighting, the mood set. I love how it truly feels like it captures the 60s. I think the acting is great. I think that the dialogue is great. Like, there's a lot of things that's going for it, but it gets kind of convoluted in that last act. And I agree with what you said. Like, the ending kind of loses me a little, not because of the twist. I think it's execution thing and some choices that were made in the ending itself. So it's a fine movie. I don't necessarily think that I would avoid watching it going forward, but I'm not going to rush or seek it out necessarily either. But I have recommended it a couple times since I watched it for this episode. I rewatched it. I was like, oh, you know what? It's got some really good stuff in it, so I've recommended it to some people. So overall, not a bad movie. All right, so we're going to do things a little bit differently this week. Last episode,
what
Brian.
the hell again? Son of a bitch.
Brian stepped in. He got the hot tag from Nico and cleaned house and did a great job. And I thought Nico did a good job doing his, giving his opinion on the scene by scene. So I thought, hey, let Nico do it again for his pick. So I'm going to do the scene by scene this week. Hopefully I do it justice. Hopefully I don't embarrass us, and hopefully I don't get too long-winded. So bear with me. I'm a little nervous. Feel like I'm about to take a girl's bra off for the first time. All right, let's get into it. So we get some somber piano keys to welcome us in, and it's eerie enough to let us know the vibe of the movie up front. A door opens, and we see a girl dancing wearing a fancy gown to some throwback 60s tunes. Meet Eloise. As she gets closer, we see that the dress is made out of newspaper or magazine pages. Very creative. Her room is very artsy, and we can see that she idolizes yesteryear. She picks up a mannequin and has a mini conversation with it, and then with herself in the mirror, being very complimentary of herself, and it's clear she has big dreams of being a successful fashion designer. A woman appears in the mirror behind her, and she says, "Good news, isn't it?" Which is followed up by a lady downstairs calling for her to come get her mail. It's a letter from fashion school. She's in, and she's stoked about it. She packs her suitcase, and unless she plans on wearing her vinyl records, her priorities are all out of whack. We come to find out that the older lady is her grandmother, and the lady in the picture in her room is her mom, the same woman who appeared in the mirror behind her. And her mom had the same dreams of going to London to make a name for herself. Granny's very worried about Eloise going off to the big city and warns her of how different and dangerous it could be. After reassuring her that it'll be fine and getting some sleep, Eloise rides off to the city, but not before Granny hands her the picture of her mother. More Groovy's jams accompany us on our train ride from the country to the city through a not so subtle logo placement for Beats by Dre. Yeah, you ain't gonna sneak that by me. She gets into a cab, and the driver tells her that London changes fast, but it's still the same London underneath, foreshadowing the theme of the movie. After he pervs on her and compliments her legs, he throws gas on her anxiety fire by saying she might even find her first stalker. Yeah, that's great. She wants out of this taxi now. She gets out and hides in a store until he drives away. As she struggles up the stairs with her luggage, we meet John, who offers her help, but she declines. Her guard is up now. Jocasta greets her at the door and gives her a pretentious spiel about wanting to be famous by just one name. She gives a very bad example there. She should have just went with Ichiro. Everyone knows Ichiro. They chit-chat in the room, and it's clear that they're vastly different. Their only common ground is having dead moms. Ellie meets some more classmates, and you can tell from looking at her face she's not comfortable. After they patronize her for being brave for having a dead mom, she opens the fridge where Jocasta grabs the devil's elixir, Jaeger. And then the Jaeger did exactly what it always does. It leads to the group to be social and make bad decisions. They walk into a bar where we see John again. Another guy walks up, and he's just oozing with Riz. He tells Jocasta that his dick just died and asks if he can bury it in her ass. Smooth. Much to my surprise, that line didn't exactly work. Well, yeah, I mean, much to my surprise, that line did not work. The girls just laugh and call him disgusting, and Jocasta says that he should try it on Eloise. She just walks off. As she stands at the bar, she sees a man in a suit through the mirror, but when she turns, he's gone. She then goes to the restroom, and as she's in the stall, her so-called friends walk in, and they're shit-talking her. Ellie is ready to go home now. On her way, she sees an older man walk out of a building, and they lock eyes for a moment. After a moment, though, she continues her trek home, now with a smile on her face. As she lays in bed, Jocasta bursts in with the dude, and it's smashing time. To give them some privacy, Ellie leaves, wrapped in her blanket, and the place is just full of people. It's a rager. John appears again and scares off a creeper for her, only to undo that good deed by revealing that he's drinking Ellie's Coke. Next morning is here, and Ellie is late for her first day. She overslept in the kitchen. She gets to class as roll is being called, and John offers her a seat. Not a great start to college. A quick call with Granny, and she lies to her to save her from worrying. She picks up a note card ad advertising for a room for a rent. Women only. She's interested. She meets Miss Collins, and Eloise agrees to the ground rules, and she's in. No more terrible roommates. Miss Collins has lived there a long time, and she used to work there. She would never sell it. Too many memories. They have some tea, and Miss Collins gets to know Ellie a bit more. She wants 4 months rent up front for security, but Ellie assures her she would never just skip out in the middle of the night. And that's the first couple of scenes.
All right, so right off the bat, let me just say, such a beautiful intro to a character. You know, something about that shot with Ellie dancing and that camera meeting her in the hallway. Then we get a cut and that one shot into her bedroom as she dances around. It's just one long shot, freaking gorgeous shot. We know Wright's brilliant, but I also want to give props to the director of photography, Chung Hoon Chung, who also shot 2016's The Handmaiden. I also love how Wright decided to do all these mirror shots practically. I have a great little nugget when she sees Sandy for the first time in the mirror later on with that. So my first question, though, when her grandma here is talking about her, quote, gift, is she referring to the ability to see ghosts? Or I actually took it as her ability to design, but I've seen it both ways online. So how do you guys take that?
That's the way I took it.
The design?
Yeah. The design.
Okay.
Like, nothing supernatural, but could be wrong.
I don't know, Brian, because the grandma kind of mentioned something about seeing her again, too. So I don't know. Kind of leaves it up for interpretation.
Yeah, I guess I just never thought of that. So, yeah, I could be wrong.
Yeah, I didn't either until I saw it online. So I was wondering how you guys saw it. So I also think this does a good job. And this means a little more knowing that this is Wright's first film with a female lead. But it does a good job here with the creepy cab driver and showing him in this immediate danger, you know, of being in a big city like London, and something I don't have to deal with, being female. I mean, this is a shit that females have to deal with on a daily basis, and something I just never even think about unless it has to do with my daughter. So I really appreciate how well this one scene immediately portrayed this danger that Ellie is, like, immediately in just by getting to town. So I thought that was good. We get introduced to John, which I'll say now, this John and Eloise relationship reminds me of Lucas and Max in Stranger Things. I'm sure Dustin will wholeheartedly agree with that. I also think Sanov Carlson nails her role of Jocasta here. She's a bit of a one-upper, isn't she? I know some people like that. Also, lastly, we're introduced to old Sandy. Spoiler alert, there's actually a hidden clue here that if you pay attention to the way that Miss Collins gives her address to Ellie and how Sandy gives her address to Jack in the next set of scenes. There, you kind of gives it away a little bit, but a twist I don't like, by the way. But like Nico mentioned, R.I.P. to Diana Rigg, who passed away shortly after production wrapped on this. An interesting parallel and some insight as to why Rigg maybe took this role was maybe some commentary on Rigg's role as a sex symbol herself in the 1960s when she did work as Emma Peel, a legacy for which Rigg was obviously very vocal about being uncomfortable with herself. So I thought that was interesting. All in all, I really like this group of scenes. I think it does a great job establishing the world and the characters, and it really has my attention at this point.
Absolutely. I think this set of scenes does a really good job of establishing characters, who's good, who's bad, who we should pay attention to, all that stuff. Right off the bat, love the open because of the song. A World Without Love by Peter and Gordon. It's great. The dancing scene, I love. The shot in the hallway. I think all of that is really good, and you're going to hear me say it a ton in my notes here. I love this shot, and it happens repeatedly because there's just some really cool editing decisions that they made to put in this movie that I just love the way the camera works and looks. So that's going to happen a lot. But great soundtrack throughout this movie, so I'm just going to say that off the top. I don't have to say that a bunch. Love this opening dialogue between Ellie and her grandma. It's probably the most real the movie feels. It feels the most grounded. It feels like a conversation that you would overhear any two, grandma and granddaughter having. So I feel like I like that we've established this relationship, that she's a very loving, caring, nurturing person for Ellie. I am glad that they mentioned the fact that she can see and feel things early on, so we're not kind of left guessing, what's happening with her. Is this supernatural? Is this whatever? I kind of took it, Brian, as because they mentioned it early on that she has this in touch thing with not ghosts, but like feeling spirits of people, and I think we get that with quote unquote Sandy, even though Sandy's, spoiler, alive, but we get that with
which
her
makes
mom
no
and
fucking sense whatsoever, by the way. But
I know. I had that nitpick too. It's really strange how they told that line to me. But they kind of gave themselves an out, which I'll get to. I'm with you though. You get to the cab and you realize that her grandma was right, just like that. Immediately, she tried to warn her, and as soon as she gets in the cab, there's this creepy fuck trying to hit on her, maybe kidnap her. Like that is what a young person moving to a place like this has to worry about on a constant basis. And like Brian said, it's not even something that would cross my mind, but you get it right here in the cabin. Grandma is proven right, which makes sense. Most grandparents have that wisdom for a reason. Her roommate fucking sucks, okay? And I don't know if we touched on, she's one of the most unlikable characters in a movie that we've done in a long fucking time. She would have to catch these hands early. The minute she lit a cigarette in our fucking shoebox of a room, I'm beating her fucking ass. You can ask me, you're going to say no. You were going to smoke in this fucking room whether I said yes or no. So you're catching these fucking hands. Take your ass, your smelly cigarette ass outside and smoke. Okay, that's problem number one. Then she's pretentious as shit. She tries to act like, she's basically trying to play the victim police. Like, oh, yeah, your story's sad. My story is just as sad. I hate that shit. Okay, it's okay for everyone to go through their own sad shit. You don't have to compare notes in this motherfucker. She is a horrible character, and it's proven by doing this Regina George shit where she's nice to other people, but everyone sees the real her. She's making fun of her in the bathroom, talking about slitting her wrist. Ellie is a soft character, but doesn't take shit. So she gets away from the situation rather quick instead of trying to, letting herself get manipulated. Like, I like that about her character. But I'd have came out busting, sticking the bottom of my heel and ripped it right outside her face. I don't have time for that shit, man. I hate people like that. It really does bug me. But I love the way this set of scenes really sets up who we're supposed to root for. Clearly, we're behind Ellie. No matter what, it ends up happening, we're supposed to be invested in her character. And who we're not supposed to pull for. And I do, this is really the only time her roommate, whose name is slipping me, it's really the only time she's in. Yeah, Jacosta. Dumb name, by the way. Sorry. Anyway, for anybody out there named Jacosta, not you, just her. Just don't like her. No offense. But no, I like that they only kind of make her important in this set of scenes. She's really an afterthought after this, and I think I like that we don't come back to that a ton. Yeah, you get a little bit more like jokes and bullying and stuff, but like she never really gets another big speaking part or whatever. So I like that. Again, all in all, I like the set of scenes because it sets up so much down the road. And look, when you meet Miss Collins, I kind of said it early. First time I saw the movie, I'm like, I bet, I wonder, if there's something about her that's off. Clearly we hadn't met Sandy yet. I was like, there's something about her that's off that I don't know what it is, but obviously we know what's coming. So I like this set of scenes. I think it invests me in the story right away. Story kind of falls apart for me, but early on I think it's good. Sorry for rambling, but I had to tell Jocasta to go fuck herself.
I don't know if anybody has in their fun facts, but Jocasta was going to be Edgar Wright's name if he wasn't a boy. But the first thing that catches my eye is the newspaper dress. Yeah, a girl named Edgar. All right, instantly it lets me know that with her dancing in this newspaper dress that she is the artistic type. I love how confident she is, telling herself she's going to be a great fashion designer. But seeing her ghost mother in the mirror does break my heart for her, just because I dread the day that I lose my mom. Makes me tear up just thinking about it, so I feel bad for Ellie. But Ellie does make me want to shake my head when she doesn't take her grandma's warning on London being a lot to deal with. However, you can see the passion for fashion is deep in herself and to make her mom proud. So I really like that. Really love Gran and how supportive she is to Ellie. Like you guys touched on, the taxi driver is a creeper right off the rip. He doesn't let up either. You'll see me a lot. I may be your first stalker. Jesus Christ, man. I was like, Ellie, you need to go report him to the feds right now. I cannot be convinced that this guy doesn't have a girl locked away. He just, like you mentioned, Brian, like us guys, we really don't have to worry about getting hit on like that, mostly because I'm ugly. But, I really like that this movie touches on the things that women deal with. So I do appreciate that. Ellie and Jocasta are oil and water roommates. Like you guys wrote, they do not mesh at all. Nothing worse than having a shitty roommate. Now we meet, and like Mike just touched on, we meet Jocasta's other college friends. And I just wrote, it feels like Mean Girls, the UK version. Jocasta is a super bitch, showing no sympathy to Ellie, hearing the story of her mom's suicide. After this bathroom scene, I literally just hate Jocasta and her crew. Don't have any good thoughts towards them at all. I thought, Ellie, you wild, taking your blanket and headphones to try and sleep while a whole ass party goes on. I feel like you're screaming for trouble right now. But, thank goodness nothing happened to her besides being late for school. I really love the shots and scenery as Ellie walks to Miss Collins' bedsit. I love how get off my lawn Miss Collins is as well. Like it or leave it. These are my rules. Shout out to Miss Collins. And I also love the exchange between the two ladies, but goddamn, 2 months rent and security deposit in advance. You got to have Mike settle money to move in with Miss Collins. But this was,
hey man, go fuck yourself.
I really felt like the first, set of scenes we covered was kind of just getting Ellie from point A to point B. Not a lot to process, just kind of setting up where the story takes off. So I didn't have a lot.
Hey, first of all, Nico, you are a handsome motherfucker. Just want to throw that out there. Second of all,
yeah, man, come on.
I did think that.
I definitely.
Wow, smash or pass. We're doing that.
Put the thing down, flip it in reverse. Yes, sir.
All right. So anyway, I was gonna say I did think it was funny and very Edgar Wright-ish and hit with his humor when he cut from Ellie telling old Sandy that I would never leave in the middle of the night and immediately cut to her leaving in the middle of the night. Let's move there.
Absolutely. So really quick, I forgot to touch on the character of John. I like him. Seems kind of like a nerd, like a likable nerd. I can appreciate that. Also, I have my suspicion antenna up though, because we're so led to believe that anytime there's a nice guy in a movie, he probably ends up sucking ass, which normally that's kind of true.
All right. So next group of scenes, Ellie unpacks in her new room, and the neon lights from outside illuminate the room red and blue. She gets a feel for her new room, and she cuts on a record. It's bedtime now. Buckle up. As she covers up, we see her transport to an alleyway. We're in the 1960s. Her dream is literally her dream. She walks into Café de Paris, and a doorman takes her cloak. It's just her robe that she had worn to bed. Then we see Sandy, who informs the doorman that she's alone this evening. but Sandy's reflection reveals something peculiar. It's Ellie in the mirror. Sandy heads down the stairs into the main seating area as a singer is on stage, singing her lungs out to a great applause. It's the same song and singer from the record she played as she laid in bed. A man asked Sadie to sit with him, and she said she can't. She's meeting with the owner. Jack eyes her from across the bar, and she tells the bartender she wants to meet with the owner because she wants to be the new headline act. He tells her to talk to Jack. He manages a lot of girls. She tells him she's the next Cilla Black. He orders her a drink, and he asks her what her talents are. When asked about dancing, she said seeing is believing. She cuts a rug, and Jack tries to burn the joint down by carelessly just tossing a cigarette. Some cool shots are used to show us Sandy transforming into Ellie and back and forth. That was pretty cool. We see that, or he tells her that she's already a star and goes to buy her a drink. As he's away, the creep from earlier tries to dance with her, and he won't take no for an answer. Jack steps in and saves the day. After calling Jack a cunt and Sandy a whore and a slut, Jack pops him in the mouth and drops him like a bad habit. Jack and Sadie rush away, where they make out in the telephone room. It's short-lived, though, and they rush out to avoid further confrontation. They get into Jack's car, and we get a great tour of vintage London. They talk about how badly Sandy wants to be a star, and then he drives her home. They make plans to see each other tomorrow at 8 p.m. Sandy goes inside and goes to bed, and it turns out it's Ellie's new room. As she gets into bed, Ellie goes to approach her, and her alarm goes off, and she wakes up for school. The next day in class, Ellie sketches a model and dress that looks familiar. It's Sandy from her dream. John asks her about it, and she said the 60s speak to her. Jocasta comes over, and she reveals a hickey on Ellie's neck. Flashback to Jack sucking on Sandy's neck, and we've got a real Nightmare on Elm Street situation going on here.
Right, I said the same thing.
Ellie leaves, and John catches up to her to tell her he liked her design and replaces the Coke that he drank a couple of nights ago. She gets real awkward and asks if she has plans tonight. She says yes because she's already thinking of her dreams with Sandy and Jack. Bedtime now, and Jack is there to pick her up, just like they agreed, even if he is a little late. They pull up to Rialto. Even though it's closed, Jack says it's not closed for her. It's her audition. She gets up on stage and delivers a solid performance of Petula Clark's Downtown. She's stoked about landing the gig. After revealing that Sandy is somehow short for Alexandria, make that make sense, she tells Jack that she needs new clothes. Next thing you know, they're on Sandy's bed about to bang when alarm clock goes off. Boner killer. Ellie is totally consumed with Sandy now. She transforms her hair from the girl next door brown hair she had to this new chic blonde style. Granny is shocked on the FaceTime. Now in class, Ellie is designing Sandy's dress with some pink sheer fabric. Ellie impresses her teacher with her vision and ambition. After school, Ellie goes back to look at some vintage clothes at the store, and she sees something familiar in the mirror. Across the street, it's the same building from her dream, the doorway to Rialto, which is now something else altogether. After spending 375 pounds on the clothes, she needs a job. So she heads to the pub, and now she sees the same old man that she had seen earlier. They lock eyes again, and there's something uneasy about it. He follows her out. He tells her she looks familiar. It's an awkward situation that's made worse by her walking out in front of a car. Like, she totally botched that, trying to be smooth. Back at home now, Miss Collins doesn't recognize her new look. She plays Downtown on the record player and drifts off into bed again. At this point, I start to question if this girl's just dropping acid nightly and hallucinating. Tonight's dream puts her in Rialto. It's a packed house. Ellie looks confused, though, because the woman on stage singing isn't Sandy. Some backup dancers come out, and oh, there she is. Her audition didn't land her the head gig. It's a pretty risque show, and Ellie has seen enough. She heads for the door, but the exit leads her into the dressing room where we see Sandy applying makeup and ripping cigs. She smashes a picture of herself on the mirror, and Jack is at the door now calling for her. He leads her out to a table, and an older guy asks to get her drinks. Just the two of them. Jack says he doesn't mind. This doesn't sit well with Sandy. Jack tells her if she's serious about being in this business, these are the kind of men that she needs to keep happy. Sandy storms off. At every turn, though, there's more creepy men and girls trying their best to break into the business. From BJs to drugs and other various nefarious acts, a wild montage shows us just how volatile the situation is. There seems to be no exit from this maze of a backstage area until she opens a door into her bedroom. Okay. It's Ellie now, and she sees Sandy in the bed with money on the nightstand. The old perv from the table comes out of the bathroom. Ellie yells at him, and then her alarm goes off. She sits up in bed, but it's a false alarm. The creep is there. And then the alarm goes off for real, and thank God this dream is over. She smashes her alarm clock, and it's back to school. She's having trouble focusing as she keeps flashing back to last night's dreams. She freaks out and starts to tear up her work. The teacher reassures her, and John seems concerned. Flash to the pub. John has come to visit Ellie at work. My man is putting in the effort. Gotta love it. They talk about her new place, and it's clear Ellie is going through it. John gives her some kind words, and then Gran calls. She puts on another show, but Gran can tell something's up, and Ellie finally tells her the truth. She's moved out. She has a job now. It's a very emotional call. And now the old man that followed her out earlier is back, and he knows her name. He gives her a folded piece of paper, and it's her drawing from school. She's very puzzled. It's revealed that he's known as Hansy, and that makes sense. Ellie goes home, and she doesn't seem eager and excited for sleep this time. The record player starts playing by itself, and Jack bursts in and grabs Sandy to lead her to the club. He orders her to go dance, and we've got a montage of her dancing, turning into various perverts buying her drinks. Crazy kaleidoscope camera effects show us that she's fucked up. Another guy is asking her name, but this one's different. He wants to know her name and tells her she's too good for this. Sandy assumes that he's a cop. When he says maybe it's too late for her, the reflection of Ellie panics. She starts pounding the glass, saying, no, it's not too late. She breaks through the glass and hugs Sandy around the neck. Ellie is home in bed now. She hears Sandy's voice repeating, you know where to find me, you know where to find me, and sees Sandy's reflection on the ceiling. She's laying in bed in some sexy lingerie. There's a man in the room. He's taking off his tie and walking towards Ellie in bed. He's transparent, though, and keeps changing shapes and faces into all the various men that Sandy is hooked up with. He continues to undress, and Ellie runs out of the room, gasping for air. When she re-enters, it's daylight now, and everything is normal. And that's the next set of scenes.
Okay, so I have a lot on this, so bear with me. Very nice touch here at the start of this set of scenes by Wright with the blinking blue and red lights turning strictly to red whenever she, teleports to the 60s, whatever she does. And how she pulls those covers over her and the camera pans out and then the sheets are suddenly like all encompassing, like an Elm Street movie almost. Very cool shot. A fun little tidbit. Originally, the flashback scenes were going to have no dialogue, only music to make them feel more like dreams. So thank God co-writer Christy Wilson voiced up and changed that because she said the audience needed to fall in love with Sandy. And I agree. I don't know how you could do that without the dialogue. It would make no sense. But man, 60s London, I cannot express how good this looked to me. And what's even more impressive about this shit is that, it was all shot on location. And most of the businesses in Soho are open 24/7. Edgar Wright said that the only way to capture the Soho ambience was to do it, on location. And it was, quote, a Herculean effort, which, holy shit, I mean, that's impressive. And speaking of impressive, and I love fun facts like this because I'm so interested in the practical way they do stuff in film, but the scene where Eloise first sees Sandy through the mirror is done practically. And to achieve this, the cloakroom attendants played by twins James Phelps and Oliver Phelps, the Weasley twins from Harry Potter. Great makeup, too, because I did not know that those were the Weasleys at first. They do not look like the Weasleys, nor 37 years old there. Again, this scene is just a porno of amazing shots, which I've never said that before, but I'm going to start using that. Write it down, Brianism. Let's put that on a shirt. This dance sequence between Sandy, Ellie, and Jack, there were only 2 moments that were not practical. The rest of the transitions were entirely choreographed and done camera. I thought that was just fucking fantastic. Okay, so is she time traveling or is she dreaming? And why does the hickey follow her to the real world? Like I wrote this down too.
You never
I wrote
that.
is Jack Freddy Krueger? Is this really a Nightmare on Elm Street movie? And I'm going to be super pumped at the end when Miss Collins turns into Robert Englund, who, by the way, I don't know if we've ever mentioned this before, but we interviewed him at don'tgoothere.com.
I'll never mention that.
Anna Taylor-Joy really sung Downtown herself, which, again, her talents continue to amaze me. All in all, another good group of scenes. I really like how the movie is, as confusing as some of this shit is, we never get answers to. It does show a good parallel between the Eloise and Sandy, like their whole thing across time. And I know this is set up for London, but this same story about being chewed up and spit out by big cities and the lure of show business is definitely one that can be chalked up for New York or Los Angeles and Hollywood, etc. So it's relatable, in a lot of ways. The last thing I want to say here, we're introduced to Terrence Stamp, and I do love the swerve we get with his character. Stamp's great in this, I think. The next set of scenes is where the movie starts to go a little bit downhill for me, though.
Yeah, this is definitely my favorite set of scenes because so much happens. It's chock full of stuff, man. But it is a little confusing how she ends up in the 60s. But you've already kind of touched on that. They do a phenomenal job of the fact that however she is transporting there, they do a great job of it. Like this sheet, and then how this looks, how I would picture it anyway, how London looked in the 60s. Like that's exactly what I see when I think of that. I think they did a phenomenal job, man. And again, there's so many cool shots here with those mirrors, with Ellie and Sandy. Like there's so many good different angles that they do that at, and however they achieve that effect, bravo to them. And I don't know how easy that is, how hard that is, but I thought it was really, really cool how they kind of mirrored each other in some ways. And then, you go around the corner and it look a little bit different. Like I just really appreciated the artistry that went into some of these shots. My man Jack I can smell a rat from a mile away, and not the wrestling rat, Dustin, a different kind of rat. Where I could just tell he was no good. I don't care how sweet they made him seem. You could just tell. And then, it's interesting how she's excited for, this part of this story. I'm referring to Ellie now, pronouns. She's excited for this aspect. She's almost more excited to go to sleep than she is to go to school. She's so excited about what took place that she draws it, and it becomes her fashion inspiration. And I really like that touch as well. And I like that she's a good student in her class. Like I like that right in this part of the story, this stuff's not getting to her. She's using it as inspiration, and everyone else is a little bit jealous of her. So I like that. But then I do enjoy, and this is something I think this movie does well that a lot of other movies don't do. They don't glamorize the era of the 60s, 70s, whatever the era you go back to is. They make it more realistic. There's a dirty, seedy underbelly to every time period ever. And this is no different. And they put that on full display here with the treatment of Sandy. When she goes to sleep, she expects to travel back into this really nice place she was at last time. Turns out Sandy's part of a burlesque show, and she's abused physically, emotionally, mentally, all that stuff. And I think that comes across really well. And that's when the movie turns. It stops being this what's going on here story to oh, this is some psychological shit. And they keep going, the montage that you mentioned with, Sandy and all the different guys. I like how that becomes one drug related, because she starts out, just kind of flirting with these guys. And with each guy that passes, her spirit gets broken over and over and over, to the point where she's clearly drugged up on something. You can see it in her eyes. And the way they use that kaleidoscope camera, I think, is brilliant to kind of give that effect. Or at least that's the way I interpreted it. It's just a really good portrayal of what chewing someone up and spitting them back out looks like. And to see Ellie be so invested in that story, I think is really good. And I've seen some complaints online about these shape-shifting men and not quite understanding it, but I think they explain it. They explain it in the fact that all these men become nameless and faceless because they're such big pieces of shit taking advantage of this situation. I kind of like that they went that direction. I think it works, or it works for me. So all in all, I think this is a really good set of scenes. Some of the better filmmaking that we've seen in a long time, as far as just camera shots, cinematography, cuts, edits, all that stuff, I think it's brilliantly done.
All right, bear with me, guys. I did write the most notes for this one, most thoughts I had. First things first, there ain't no way I can sleep in this room, all these damn flashing lights. If you come to Dustin's been to my house before. I got blackout curtains everywhere. you can't see a damn thing when the lights turn off. There ain't no way I could sleep if I was Ellie in that room. But I guess it's still better than living with Jocasta. Like you guys have touched on, incredible shot as Ellie flips the sheet over, transitioning to her walking down the alley in the 1960s London. It looks perfect for the time, just like you said, Brian. The bright reds of the stairs and the walls really caught my eye. I thought it looked brilliant. We now meet the legend in the making, Anya Taylor-Joy, if she's not a legend already, as Sandy. I love her look and confidence as she demands everyone's attention as she walks past them. She wants to be the headline act without any prior experience. I love it, Sandy. Talk your shit. Jack looks like a piece of shit right off his first appearance. Like, I don't like his face. It just made me think of like the Justin Bieber roast when Hannibal Buress was up there talking to Pete Davidson. I don't know what it is about you, but I just don't like your face. That's how I felt the same way right there. It's this set of, I wrote Dustin, it's this set of scenes where I'm glad Dustin is doing the scene by scene with Sandy and Ellie appearing and disappearing in the mirrors and dancing with Jack. But I did quite enjoy Jack punching that other creepy looking piece of shit guy. It's like, there's a lot of piece of shit guys in this in Soho, man. Feel bad for these ladies. Have to say it again. London at nighttime looks great in this movie. Beautiful visuals. When Ellie watches Sandy leave the mirror to go to bed, seeing she has a hickey, I am kind of wondering what the hell is going on with all this. I guess we all kind of feel that way. Ellie seems to have a little pep in her step now as my man John keeps shooting his shot, giving her compliments and replacing her coke he took. I really like the music choice in this scene. I've got my mind set on you goes hard, low key. I was like, yeah, bobbing my head up. And I was like, hell yeah, brother. I might go download this on Amazon. Anya really impresses as a singer, actress in this audition scene. And I think it's very cool seeing Ellie walking to the stage, admiring Sandy. It's obvious she wants to be like her and strives to be like her. Imitation is the best form of flattery. I love how she colors her hair blonde and designs the pink dress that Sandy was wearing. Like you mentioned, Brian, we now meet Terrence Stamp, someone I've loved since seeing him in Yes Man. Instantly looking forward to seeing more from him in this movie. Ellie gets a taste of Sandy's reality now as she sees Sandy miserable on stage dancing and her smoking, punching in the mirror in her dressing room. Really sad scene. This movie takes a nice turn here to me, really revealing what these women are dealing with and are doing to achieve their fame and accomplish their dreams. It's very sad, and as we've said several times prior on this show, reality is the scariest kind of horror. It's heartbreaking knowing that a lot of women went through this. Ellie starts to slip into madness here in class, tearing her dress up. Thomasin McKenzie really does a superb job in this, and I will continue to compliment her throughout this. I get a good chuckle out of Ellie's boss telling her the customers are supposed to be telling you their problems, not the other way around. I feel bad for Gran here in this phone call. She knows something's wrong, but Ellie isn't being honest with her. Really powerful, telling her it's okay to ask for help. We as people need to remember that. The silver-haired gentleman, Terrence, really comes across creepy. He's a great red herring. Spoiler alert. I really like Carol telling Ellie the good spirits and good times have soaked into the walls. You can get drunk off it is a very nice foreshadowing line of dialogue. Ellie sees another night of Sandy going through hell with these creeper, powerful men in town. Anya does a great job portraying the fed up with the bullshit woman. I love it. The scene with Ellie pounding on the mirror, trying to get Sandy after the one man tells her to get out while she can is great stuff here by Edgar Wright. Loved it. And the last thing I got is we get our first real horror movie-esque kind of scene with Ellie seeing these ghost-like men as she hears the conversation Sandy had with the creeper men. And we get a nice little jump scare as her nightmare ends. That's all I had, Dustin.
Here's a question I wanted to ask everyone. Are these things ghosts? Like, that's never, it's left ambiguous to me. And I'm guessing when the reveal comes that, it's Sandy and she murdered these guys.
What?
And put them under the house. Sorry. If you haven't seen the movie, never mind. I'm not going to rant again. But are they ghosts? Because no one ever really says, and the only reason I even thought they were ghosts was because she puts them under the house, or so we're led to believe, right? I mean, that's the way I took it. So, or bury them in the floor. Like, I'm so confused on what Ellie is seeing, and that's not ever made clear to me. So I was just curious if anybody found an answer for that, because I couldn't.
No, I did not.
Yeah, that's why I just kind of put ghost-esque.
Yeah. Well, they do let us know that, Ellie feels and sees things the grandma did, but, I mean, I don't know what that means either. So it's just, it's very ambiguous, I guess.
All right. So Ellie looks in the mirror and she collects herself, and when she turns around, we see a hallucination of those many men in her room. She screams. Now she's in her design class, and John asks her if she has plans. She wants to go out, no matter what the plans are. It's Halloween, and they're going to a party. It's a pretty lit college party, and Jocasta brings over some drinks for Ellie and John. Drinks must have had mushrooms in them, as Ellie is now dancing like she's tasting colors and hearing her hair grow. Pretty wild shit. She freaks out, however, when she sees all the men from her latest dream and Sandy in the party. When she approaches Sandy, she disappears, and Ellie tells John that she needs some air. She runs down the sidewalk through the rain and sees another vision of her dream people. John shows up and calms her down and scores his first kiss. She's going to take him back to her room now. Our boy's in there like swimwear. They kiss all the way up the stairs and then some more on the bed, and then when John lays her down and softly whispers pretty love words in her ear. The sexcapade is short-lived, though, because Ellie sees Sadie being choked and nearly stabbed in the mirrors. "Get off her," she yells. "I'm not on her," replies a confused John. We see Jack and Sadie struggle on the bed between John and Ellie as Miss Collins knocks on the door and yells, "No male visitors." John struggles to put his pants on and falls into the mirror. Miss Collins shoos him away. All the while, Ellie is watching a brutal stabbing occur on the bed in front of her, something only she can see. Miss Collins turns the light on, and Ellie snaps out of it and assures Miss Collins that she's okay. The next day, Ellie sweeps up all the shattered glass and then apologizes to Miss Collins. Then she asks about a girl that used to live upstairs. Miss Collins skirts the question and tells her, "This is London. Someone's died in every room." More hallucinations as Ellie then sees Jack comes towards her from upstairs. Cut to her being back at school, and John looks scared and confused, rightfully so. She makes some alterations to her dress, and the model turns into a bloody Sadie. Ellie freaks the fuck out and runs away. Dozens of men line the hallway, and as she looks back, they turn into the men from the dream. She's seen them everywhere now. The men, Sandy, Jack, she can't escape it. This dream world has consumed her real world. She runs into Jack in the street, and as she scurries away, the camera cuts back to reveal that it was actually Hansy, or the silver-haired gentleman, that she had ran into. I'm going to call him Hansy, though. That's a funny-ass nickname. She looks around and spots a police station. Surely they'll believe her. Wink. The detective repeats her story back to her, and yeah, they're clearly not buying it. She's so sure of herself, though, and she tries to convince them that something bad has happened to this girl from her dreams. The response is a question of mental illness or schizophrenia. She tells the cops that Jack is the killer and that it's that crazy cat Hansy. She sees him everywhere, and he's been following her. She then goes to the loo and pukes, and her girl is looking rough. When she comes out, she hears the male detective laughing about her story with another cop in the men's room. The lady detective tries to comfort her and assures her that she did the right thing by coming there and that she'll look into the murder, but she wants Ellie to get some help. Ellie goes to the library instead to do some research, hoping to find something that can help her case with the cops. John scares the bejesus out of her, but he's just trying to bring her stuff. He's such a good guy. Reluctantly, she tells John the story about the visions, the dreams, the killer that's still out there. John, being the great guy that he isn't scared off. He wants to help. As he trots off to look for resources, our purge from the dreams are back in a cool shot that involves lights flickering and a creepy score. She feels a hand on her shoulder again and assumes it's John. It's not. It's a dream perv there to scare her. She's armed with a pair of scissors and trying to escape. As she approaches one of the guys from her dream, she tries to stab it in the face with the scissors. John grabs her arm and stops her. Good thing, because it was actually Jocasta and not a scary dream ghost. Jocasta is understandly upset and calls for security.
No, that would have been fine, fucker. Sorry.
Ellie heads for the exit, but gets distracted by Sandy walking in the street below the window. She gives chase and follows her down an alleyway and across the street through an army of the dream ghosts. The music intensifies. Jack is after her. As she catches up to Sandy, she's shoved to the ground. She awakens in a downpour and chases after the man she's convinced is Jack. It leads her to the pub where she works. We find out that she's supposed to have been at work. She's told she has a customer downstairs. It's Hansy. Go ahead, guys.
I don't have a lot on this set of scenes, but kind of going back to the last set where I rambled so much, I also wanted to point out how it's just such a cool scene and a cool way to show Sandy's spiral as, she's sitting at that booth with Ellie in the mirror and, meets who we find out later, of course, is young Hansy. And to echo Nico's point, Ellie breaking through that glass, obviously a CG moment there, but it got his point across and was visually very cool scene, followed up by that nightmare on Elm Street. I don't know, maybe, stay tuned. But as far as this set of scenes goes, I know it wasn't necessarily for sure and hammered home, but she was definitely drugged by Mikasa Jocasta, right? I mean, to me, that just makes more sense than the dream world creeping into the real world, is that, she was drugged right there.
So, real quick, to that point, I would tend to agree with you until we get to the
library
ending.
The ending. That's true.
To the ending, when the final confrontation, all the floorboards. That's why I was like, okay, no, she wasn't drugged. This is happening.
I don't know.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't understand the ending, but yeah, we'll get there. But something I really disliked here. I mean, great shot. The scene showing us Sandy getting killed. But if you're going to have that twist at the end, why the hell did you show us clearly her getting killed? Like, that makes no sense to me. I mean, she gets stabbed 10 times and then literally stops breathing and dies on the bed. I mean, you can't even, why can't that just be what happened? Like, why does Miss Collins literally not even flinch also here whenever, like, the question, or why does she not even question anything? Why Eloise is asking her about Sandy? I mean, I don't know, subtle changes I think could have been made and included there. Also, I realize it's an Edgar Wright thing, but the music choice throughout has been astonishing, except for this scene where she is seeing all those ghosts in the classrooms and then like runs out. How Can I Forget You, Girl? I think was a poor song choice there. I mean, just for me personally, I think just a normal horror soundtrack there would have been, better personally. Not a fan of the police scene either. I feel like that could have been cut. To me, it didn't add anything. You could have just picked up with her at the library, I think. As far as the library goes, lots of It Chapter 1 vibes in the library for me. But something else that didn't make sense for me either, if she can see these ghosts or spirits or whatever, I guess she clearly can. But you obviously would know if you were her and you've seen these things your whole life. Like, you couldn't just stab them with fucking scissors. So why does she attempt to do this besides making a scene for the script where she's spiraling? I don't know. Fuck Jocasta, anyway. You literally gave her a date rape drug like 24 hours before. So fuck you going to go get security. That aggravated me. But anyway, just kind of some weird shit in this group of scenes that didn't really make sense for me. Like, as far as the overall story goes, which, maybe makes it my least favorite set of scenes, I think. I don't know. I don't care for the ending much either. I said that, but there was some amazing shots of her being grabbed by the ghost and in that library. Amazing. And lastly, just a fun fact I liked. That scene with Eloise running into that red-lit restaurant in the heavy rain with wet hair was purposely copied shot for shot as a way to pay homage to 1977 Suspiria.
Nice. I'm going to give Ellie a little piece of advice here. If you've had a rough go, do not go to a Halloween party with your friends to let off steam. We have seen this in the Halloween timeline too many fucking times, and bad shit happens. Rob Zombie's Halloween movies, bad shit happens. Fucking this most recent one, which I won't, the movie Who Shall Not Be Named, they go to a Halloween party, bad shit happens, okay? Stop fucking doing this. But I will say, I understand her wanting to have fun and like kind of giving John a real chance and all this stuff. So I like the character development, but man, you just knew going to a Halloween party, a party in general where there was going to be dancing after the nightmare she just had, like that was not going to go well. And then, you get home with John, so she's broken one of Miss Collins' rules, which I'm kind of glad because I kind of started to unravel the whole thing, in my opinion. But this is probably the most horror movie aspect up to this point to me, where she's clearly having some kind of meltdown. And I don't know, Brian, if it's drug induced or whatever, but it's effective to me. Like I think, her seeing the vision or whatever where Sandy gets killed, all that looks so real and it crosses over into her world and all that stuff. But I will make a criticism here, and I think it kind of bugged me starting about right here. I wish they had kept these two worlds separate more. This 60s world and in her current day. I kind of wish she had to almost go visit it every time something happened. I didn't love the bleeding over into the now that I thought, this 60s story that was being told ended up being like it just once this set of scenes happened, it just bled through the whole thing. And I kind of liked it when they were a little more separate.
But even if it was in the 60s, why is she dead? Why did it show her die? That doesn't make any sense when she's obviously not dead.
I don't have an answer to that yet.
I agree, because like everything else she's been seeing in her dream, there's no reason to believe that she's seeing it inaccurately. And that thing is like, okay, maybe she's getting details wrong. But Mike, what I was going to say is, you said stop going to Halloween parties. What you fail to realize is that Richard Jenkins and Bradley Whitford were controlling them. This is actually a Cabin in the Woods sequel. That's the reason she made that dumb decision.
That's what I'm talking about, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Get up there and play those fucking drums. Oh, sorry. Wrong movie. Anyway, so yeah, I it's not that I don't like the stuff, like the horror elements that the like bleeding over gives us. Like, look, once she has the black around her eyes and is like, kind of losing it a little bit. And again, we're not quite sure as a viewer, is this stuff happening in her head? Like, is she seeing things? Like, what is actually taking place here? I think this is where it becomes a little too confusing to me. Too much of the, seeing those faceless shape-shifting guys just out of nowhere. Like, I'm not a big fan of that. I wish she would have stabbed Jocasta with a pair of scissors, Boy Meets World style. Shout out to that. That would have been totally fine. But whatever, didn't go that route. There was just a lot of stuff in this scene that I thought confused the plot to me. And there's good stuff here. Like, I like her running through the rain, kind of like, again, losing her grip on reality. But is that what was actually happening? I don't know. And I think that's kind of the downfall of this set of scenes, where there's a lot of cool visual stuff, like a lot of just really cool visual stuff. But I think it got lost as far as my ability to stay paying attention, because I think the story started to fall here for me. And they do, and last thing I really have here is they do a good job of kind of making you think that Hansy is Jack, or at least they did for me. Because the first time I saw him, I was like, I bet that's somebody. Once we met Jack, I'm like, oh my God, I bet that's Jack. So I thought they did that effectively. And I like the twist that we get. So, which isn't in this set of scenes, we're going to save it. But I did like that character arc of Hansy kind of being an important character. You and us as a viewer not being so sure about who or what he is. But a lot of the other stuff in this set of scenes, I think, kind of takes the movie down a notch, especially seeing Sandy die. I don't like their cop-out answer that we get in the last set of scenes.
All right, first thing that I wrote down was my man John just keeps on shooting a shot, asking Ellie to join him at the Halloween party. And kind of like you said, Dustin, I wrote much respect. If you really want something, you'll work for it. I agree with you, Brian. I wrote, if I'm Ellie, ain't no way in hell I'm drinking anything Jocasta gives me. But I want to touch on your point about her being drugged. I really don't know, because John got a drink too, and he seemed fine. So I'm really not sure if they were drugged or not. I think she's just losing it, honestly, at this point. But regardless, I'm still not drinking anything she gives me. I don't trust her. The party looks fun, but nothing will ruin a party. Quite like seeing ghosts of men who you've seen do these horrific things to this made up friend that you have now, right, Sandy. And I wrote, sheesh, Ellie, should I call you Pearl for how horny you are right now? This girl is jonesing for a boning. She gives no fucks about Miss Collins' rules at the house. This scene with Ellie seeing Sandy getting attacked in the mirror ceiling, I loved it personally. The acting from all involved is superb. It's shot incredibly. The gore is much welcomed. And seeing Ellie's reflection in the knife, chef's kiss. I love that. Miss Collins' reaction to what's happened is a little puzzling, though. I figured she'd be a little more pissed off with hearing a man in the room, and just the things she was hearing Ellie say. I figured she'd have a more strong reaction. Ellie has fully slipped into paranoia, seeing James walking down the stairs towards her, and again in class, seeing a bloody Sandy. Just more praise for Thomasin McKenzie for how good of a job she's doing in this movie. Rough scene for Ellie, as the cops do not take her seriously at all. She tells them about what she's been seeing with Sandy. The guy cop is just laughing at her in the bathroom. But the female detective kind of takes her seriously. I wonder if it's kind of like one of those women believing women things that was, kind of going on when this movie came out, which, I can respect that. And this was my thoughts on the library scene. I said, I don't hate this library scene, but it feels really cliche. Researching the alleged crime, the exposition dump, getting the love interest help, and of course the token scares. I kind of got, you mentioned It Chapter 1. I kind of felt like The Ring, whenever I got real The Ring vibes for that. The almost scissor stab to the face of Jocasta was a nice touch, though. Ellie, you got to compose yourself, sis. I remember thinking that the very first time I watched this movie was like, you got to get it together. At this point in the movie, when Ellie is grabbed by the ghost men, I do get serious ghost fatigue. I get this is supposed to be plaguing her, but it's just repetitive as hell now, and I'm over it. And Dustin, that's it for me.
All right, next up's the ending. So Ellie gets behind the bar where Hansy is ready with some riveting conversation. She starts a timer on her phone and pours him a beer. She asked him if he knew Sandy, and he said, "Who didn't?" Hansy reveals that he knew all the girls and had to keep them in line. She tells him she knows what he did and accuses him of murdering Sandy. He tells her she ended up exactly where she wanted to be and that Alex killed Sandy. She slams a glass on the floor and Hansy has had enough. He's out. He tells her to tell Alex hello right before he's plowed over by a car. Tony Stewart must have been driving. Ellie is perplexed to find out Hansy's real name. Sorry. Ellie is perplexed to find out Hansy's real name is actually Lindsay, not Jack, and that he's former police. She has a flashback to the guy from the dream that told Sandy she's too good for this. That's how Hansy knew Sandy. Ellie cries on the phone to Gran that she's let everyone down and she can't stay in London another night. John turns out to be Johnny on the spot again. Right place, right time. He'll take her home to Gran. Ellie goes in to get her belongings and tells John if she's not back in 15 minutes to come check on her. She talks to Miss Collins and tells her she needs help. She tells her she's leaving to go back home. Miss Collins urges her to calm down and drink her tea. She tells Ellie that the cops came around asking questions. She tells Ellie there's some truth to her saying that a girl died up there. The young her. Flash to an envelope, and we see that Miss Collins' first name is, drumroll, Alexandra. She's Sandy. She tells her that she wanted to be famous and did what she had to do. She's erased the men from her memory. She had to. She died on that room 100 times, or in that room 100 times. And one night, the man put her there, that put her to work. She put a knife in him. The bloody stabbing we saw earlier wasn't Sandy being stabbed. It was her stabbing Jack, which I agree, Brian. That makes no sense. She reveals that she actually killed several guys in that room, and we get gnarly-looking flashbacks of the room lit up with neon lights and the pervs getting stabbed and slashed. Ellie apologizes for going to the police, and Miss Collins says, it's all right. They think she's mad, and she won't tell anyone else. The tea was poisoned, and the cops will just assume that she's offed herself. The doorbell rings, and it's John coming to check on his bae. Miss Collins grabs a knife and heads for the door. She bitch slaps Ellie back to Bangkok and goes to let John in. As Ellie tries to go warn John, she knocks an ashtray into the crate of records that catch fire. Poor John. He gets knifed, and then Ellie gets slashed across the hand. She falls onto the stairs, and we get a trippy hallucination of Miss Collins as the young Sandy singing and chasing a crawling Ellie up the stairs, which are transformed into a very elaborate and eloquent staircase. As they approach the top of the stairs, Ellie channels her inner Shawn Michaels and gives Miss Collins a super kick down the stairs. Ellie gets into the room where the men who were buried beneath the floorboards and in the walls start breaking through and grabbing at her. She's trapped on the bed, and it looks like that's all for our girl Ellie. Miss Collins is trying to get into the room, but the door is locked. One of the dream ghosts hands Ellie the phone and asks for help and says to kill Miss Collins. When Miss Collins gets into the room, there's dozens of dead men in there. Jack approaches her to slap her, and then they all just disappear. Miss Collins has a moment of regret and says she didn't want any of this, and they all deserved it. Then she slashes her own throat because she said she won't go to prison. Ellie pleads with the young Sadie to come with her, but Sandy tells her to let her go and go live. Save John and go. Ellie runs downstairs where the flames are going ham. She gets to John, and firemen break down the door and get them out safely. They're loaded up into ambulances, and a somber yet creepy piano tune sets the mood. A doorway opens in the middle of a pitch-black screen, and as a woman dances to a modernized version of Downtown, while Ellie's dress design that was inspired by Sandy is being worn, we hear an announcement that we're at a fashion show, and this is Ellie's collection. The crowd really loves the design, and she's received with great applause. Gran and John are in the crowd together, and I breathe a sigh of relief that my guys survived that crazy night. She walks backstage and sees her mom in a mirror. She stops to smile. John and Gran approach her and tell her how great she did. When Ellie looks back at the mirror, she sees young Sandy, and we flash to a title card. The end.
Yeah, I'm not a really fan of the ending at all, like I said. But before we get into that, this opening number here with Terrence Stamp and Thomasin McKenzie is brilliant. Stamp is fucking phenomenal as they go back and forth in that bar. And then, are you kidding me? 82 fucking year old Terrence Stamp did his own stunt with getting hit by that car. He apparently watched his stunt double rehearse and told Wright he could perform it. Why Edgar Wright let him? I'm sure the insurance companies would not be thrilled to know that, but what a fucking legend Stamp is for doing that. But him, like I said, but him being Lindsay was a twist that I liked. Now, like I said, the last of the scenes, I did not care for Miss Collins being old Sandy. It just felt like a twist for the sake of being a twist. I just think it would have been more effective had Sandy twist the skirt. I just think that it would have been more effective had Sandy really died, and you had Ellie learning the truth about her. Maybe it helps her to not have a happy ending and fall into the same shit, or have her character arc be that she learns from Sandy's mistakes. I don't know, but either way, I still don't know why it showed her dying when she really didn't die. And why is she seeing spirits of Sandy in the past if she's not really dead? I don't understand, I guess. And I'm not really a fan of stuff not really making sense to me. But like A24 movies, maybe I just don't get it.
Yeah, I've said before on this show, if you need a video essay to make me understand what's going on, kind of a problem. I'm not saying I don't like a movie that makes me think. Every time I use that, someone comes back at me and says that. That's not true. I actually really like a movie that makes me think. But I don't like a movie that confuses the plot. Like, I don't like a movie that kind of stretches what I think is realistic. And again, we're talking about a movie where someone sees spirits, apparently. So I know I'm, kind of playing with the rules myself. But I'm not against the twist like you are, Brian. But I have some problems with the way it's done, the way it's presented, because we see Sandy die. And I know that they explain it away as if that's young Sandy. She died up there 100 times. Again, I like that comment. At least they gave some kind of explanation for it. That trauma and everything that she went through in that room, that version of Sandy is dead. But that still doesn't connect the dots to me for why Ellie was seeing her. I just don't like that. Going back to the scene you mentioned between Lindsay and Ellie, it's fucking phenomenal. The emotion from Ellie is, she's holding back tears, but not doing a very good job of it. But trying to play it cool when she's clearly very nervous and thinks she knows who this guy is. Their back and forth is absolutely brilliant. And I like the back and forth here with Ellie and Miss Collins. But the reveal, while I'm like, oh shit, okay, that's kind of cool. But then I start to think about it, and it starts to unravel for me. I just don't like it. And I will say, this ending runs long in the tooth. Like, the drugging her, the chase, the fire, John coming in. There's so much that happens to me. I felt like you could have shortened some of this, my opinion. Like, there's just too much happening in this house. I feel like, and how quickly Miss Collins turned from being on a murderous rampage to being like, save yourself, save the guy. I'm going to sit in this room and die now that the police are here. Like, I don't know. Like, it just, that quick turn never made a whole lot of sense for me either. And I know maybe Ellie kind of helped her heal the same way she helped Ellie heal. I just think it's all a little too much. It happens too fast. And the ending itself just drags a little bit for me. But I like a lot of the way the movie looks. Tell you what, if a house is that much on fire, ain't none of y'all motherfuckers getting out without some serious burn damage. But anyway, but I do like that we get a happy ending. Every now and then I like to say that I like when a movie doesn't do that, kind of hits you in the balls and gives you an unhappy ending. But that's happening more and more. So I kind of like a movie that gives us something happy to end on. Like, I kind of enjoy that. And I feel like the three of them and her being okay with now seeing the spirit of Sandy, all that's pretty nice, pretty good. Like, I like a lot of that. But the end and the twist is just convoluted to me. But the very end I thought was a nice touch. Shout out to Gran, a true day one lockdown Gran. I love her. She's more down than Jackie Kennedy. Oh, my bad.
One of my favorite things about doing this show is, our differing opinions, because I will say that I do like the ending a lot and the reveal. I love Ellie's facial acting in this exchange with Hansy. He does a great job of being stern in his innocence and not caving into Ellie's accusations. I think Terrence does a great job. Really, really good reveal after he's hit by the car that he was the cop trying to convince Sandy to get out of the business. I really enjoyed that scene. Never, ever drink something in a tense situation like this, Ellie. Didn't you watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Jessica Biel? My goodness. Miss Collins revealing she is Sandy is so good. I love that reveal. I get the chills as she tells her she died 100 times in that room. Shout out to Diana Rigg for putting on an acting clinic in this scene. I love seeing Sandy's scene where she kills Jack. The effects look great. And I'll say, I don't encourage murder, but these piece of shit guys, they kind of deserved it. And I also I guess I'll just call her Alexandra Collins Gacy, since she hid all the bodies in the floors and the walls of her own house. Ellie realizing her tea was poisoned is a nice epiphany for her. And Miss Collins saying, I won't stab you, gave me a chuckle for some reason. She's so chill with killing now, it's pretty scary of her. John gets Dick Halloran with the instant stab as soon as he walks inside. I love this scene with Sandy following Ellie up the stairs with a knife. But everything good I just said about the stair scene, I have to say I'm not a fan of these ghost hands grabbing Ellie as she tries to make an emergency call. At this point, I have to think she's kind of snapped out of this paranoia knowing what's happened in the room. Another thing I don't like here, am I supposed to feel sympathy for these ghost men as they ask for help? They were shitty people. I love the line delivery by Sandy, I'm not going to prison. I've been in prison my whole life. Damn, what a horrible way to die, though. Throat sliced, then letting the fire burn you alive. Whew. God bless you, girl. It is a nice feel-good scene seeing Ellie thrive as a fashion designer and seeing her mother proud in the mirror, Gran and John there supporting her. Then she sees Sandy, who waves at her and winks. I'm curious to hear how my co-host interprets this ending. I took it as Ellie accomplished she and Sandy's goals for both of them. That's how I took it. I don't know how y'all took it, but that's just how I interpreted it. I like the ending. I didn't love everything about it, but I love the twist, the reveals. I thought it ended well.
All right. So next, I guess we'll get into fun facts. Anybody got any fun facts for us?
Yeah, I got a couple.
And then I'll do social media questions.
Yeah, I got a couple. Nico, I did want to say about the ending too, though. What is? It was a little bit interesting, and I think I read this somewhere else, so I can't take completely credit for it either. The fact that she went straight up with the 1960s and stuff for the final, fashion show that she put on, it was almost like, it's almost like maybe she should have, or it should have had her with what she was doing at the very beginning of the movie, with her own designs that were, newspaper stuff and all that stuff that she was doing at the beginning. I understand what you're saying. And yeah, I guess she did accomplish their goals for both of them, but I don't know. It was almost like her character arc to me maybe should have had more of herself in it and not so much of Sandy. Does that make sense?
Brian, you're going to hate this, but Foundflix kind of felt the same way. I know you probably didn't watch that, but that was a big issue he had as well. And I saw a lot of comments. I saw a lot of comments.
Side or whatever that I was kind of reading through too, but it makes a lot of sense. I agreed with it.
I can see it that way, but I also kind of feel like everything she's been through, she kind of maybe changed throughout.
I mean, all the
events that's happened.
I just kind of think I was I guess, hoping that it maybe was more of a mix. Maybe it should have been a little bit more of a mix.
I see where you're coming from, though, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was almost like she lost her identity a little bit. Okay, anyway, fun facts. I've got 3. Thomasin McKenzie dropped out of Top Gun Maverick 2022 to star in this movie. Good, because I think she's more fitting for this movie, to be honest with you. There's James Bond references all throughout. There's too many for me to list, but apparently Edgar Wright has frequently stated that he would love to direct a James Bond film. Big James Bond fan. They're all throughout here. And this was interesting, too, to achieve the shots of the students walking down the nighttime Soho streets. I guess after getting drunk at the beginning, the crew had a Steadicam within a bicycle rickshaw taxi. These are common around the Soho area. The road was not closed off, and the extras in the shot were unaware they were in a movie. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
I wonder if they had to get consent.
They don't if they don't speak.
Right.
Nico, you got any fun facts?
Mike, you got any fun facts? I got a couple. these are just ones I thought were pretty interesting. According to Edgar Wright, after George Miller saw an early cut of the film, he was so impressed by Anya Taylor-Joy's performance that he met her immediately. He then offered her the leading role for his next film, Furiosa 2024. So Anya Taylor-Joy continues to impress, and she's going to be awesome in another movie next year. And this is another one I thought was funny. As Wright was setting up a shot of the stairs to the Toucan pub basement, Terrence Stamp remarked that they weren't fit for the movies. The Toucan later put up a plaque on the stairs reading, "These stairs aren't good enough to be in a movie. Terrence Stamp and the date." That's the only two I thought was pretty interesting that we haven't touched on.
I've got just one. So Stephen King, you may have heard of him. He had the opportunity to see this movie at an advanced screening, and he was so impressed by what he saw. He tweeted, "I hardly ever rewatch. There's just so many good things out there, but this one is special." So I have criticisms as well, but if one of the gods of horror, likes it that much, I guess it's a pretty good movie. Mike, you got the budget?
Yeah, what I'm about to reveal to you is that sometimes art comes at a cost. So, again, hard to judge the box office because it was put out in 2021. COVID's still kind of there. Okay, this movie was made for $43 million and grossed $23 million.
Wow.
Now, some of that, it was put on to streaming, limited theater stuff. So I'm not making excuses. $23 million is not great. But I think sometimes you get a movie like this, I think is artistically well done. It's praised by critics. It's praised by people that are into film for other reasons. But the general movie-going audience, even like your average horror fan, probably skipped this one or didn't enjoy it. I think that's probably pretty clear. And I think that's unfortunate because I think movies like this, original ideas, which I know Dustin's going to just praise Jesus on this one. Mm-hmm. Original ideas like this need to be made, whether we like them or not. That at least it's something we haven't seen before. And so I think this movie making $23 million only kind of stinks. But I'm going to excuse it away because of the year that it came out with all the pandemic stuff. So, but this movie costing $43 million does not shock me. If they shot on location, that's an expensive place to make a movie. They used real, stuff for sets. So that's a very expensive way to make a movie.
I got one more. I lost this one earlier. I found it again. I thought this one was really cool. So this movie was originally called Red Light Area, and then it was changed to The Night Has 1,000 Eyes. But Wright had a conversation with Quentin Tarantino, and Quentin Tarantino told him that Allison Anders once said that Last Night in Soho was the best title for best title music for a film that's never been made. And so it gets the title from a song from the 60s, and it fits. It's a perfect name.
I like that.
All right. Anything else before I do social media? All right. So pretty light week on social media. We only have 4, or I guess 3, and they're from Instagram. So Jay Hambrick88 says, Anya Taylor-Joy can call me anytime, LOL. I miss seeing this in theaters, and I've been meaning to watch it now. I'll have to get it tonight.
She can call me anytime as well.
Ryan_Electro827 says, the cinematography and editing choices in this film are flawless to me. Visually stunning, incredible performances from both leading ladies and support cast alike. Perfect 10 out of 10 film for me. Heart eyes emoji. All right, brother. And Chris_2020 says, man, I wish I saw this in theaters. Gave me an awesome modern giallo vibe towards the end, and really profound commentary on the dark British showbiz scene when we usually see the stateside alternative Hollywood portrayal. Gotta love Edgar Wright. I agree with that. It is cool to see the dark side of people trying to break into the business. So
we probably
appreciate your questions.
We probably
and comments,
didn't get many because people forgot that we exist after we took last week off.
Hope not. Whew.
All right. So next we'll do favorite kill, least favorite kill on the rating.
Yeah, I feel like you should go first.
You go first, Dustin. Right.
Yeah, you should do the scene by scene.
As if people aren't tired of hearing me talk already. All right.
Fuck him.
Favorite kill to me was Jack, just because he turned out to be a piece of shit, and it was nice to see him get his comeuppance. And up until that point in the film, honestly, well, I guess we got a little bit earlier when we thought Sandy was getting stabbed, but it was a nice bit of gore and blood flying everywhere. Least favorite kill to me was Miss Collins, just because it didn't really make a whole lot. Like, it's just part of that ending that I have issues with. And while I do appreciate her saying, fuck that, I'm not going to jail, you won't take me alive, it just, it was more so the circumstances that led to it. As far as my overview and rating. So I watched the trailer for this movie earlier today, as Brian knows, because we talked about it. And this trailer, I hadn't seen it up until today. This trailer is prime example of why I've been bitching about trailers to you guys for a while now. I don't watch trailers anymore. It has nothing to do with spoilers, but it's because they put their best foot forward into the trailer to suck you in, which is what they're supposed to do. But a lot of times they mislead you. The movie that I saw in that trailer today is not the movie we got. It was much more creepy, had a much more dark tone to it, and much more suspense than what we actually got, I felt like. You forget that this is a horror movie until, I don't know, over halfway into the film. Now, I agree that I think it was it you, Brian, that said that it's confusing as to how or why she's transporting to the 60s? Yeah. Or it might have been Mike. One of y'all says confusing about how or why she keeps transporting to the 60s. I don't necessarily mind that. What I do mind is how the Hickey came back with her, but that's the only instance of something transcending worlds from the dream world to the real world. I have a problem with that. Yeah. I feel like that should have been a much more common theme throughout the movie. And then Miss Collins being attacked by the dead people at the end. Okay, so there's the second occurrence, but it should have happened more. If the Hickey is being visible by her, her roommate or her classmate, then the faceless perverts in the library should have been visible, in my opinion, or just not included at all. Like, it was very inconsistent. I agree as to what's visible to everybody and what's only visible to her. Like, you should have kept all the stuff from the sorry, I lost my place. Should have just kept all the stuff from the 60s in the dream world and the dream world only. Yes. Because
100% agree.
Again, that makes the whole alluding to her drink being drugged irrelevant. And because it's like we find out during that scene, if she's hallucinating and seeing the perverts, it makes sense because she just drank that drink that was, laced. But then at the ending, the hands popping through the floorboard and all that shit just doesn't make sense. And the whole police station scene, I agree, could have been left out. We could have just had her tell Grant or tell John that she tried going to the cops. They didn't believe her. And we didn't need to see that 10-minute, that could have saved some runtime there. I do like both twists. I like the reveal that Hansy was actually the cop from back in the day, and he had he had good intent. And I disagree with you, Brian. I actually don't mind the Miss Collins twist. I like the fact that it was her. Yeah. It was tell Cersei it was me. I wanted to know. Like, I like that it was her the whole time. Mm-hmm. Because it adds another layer of suspense. Like, oh, okay. But the ending was just too convoluted, too chaotic for me to love it. There's too much going on. Not enough was really explained. And then it's just boom, the place goes up in flames and she lives happily ever after. So I gave the movie a 7, but I honestly could have given it a lot higher if the last 15 minutes had been done differently.
Wait a second. Tell Cersei it was me. Was that her? Is that the same actress?
No.
Oh, damn. I mean, it could have she could pass for her, though. I was like,
yeah, she could. I was thinking in my mind, it was me, Austin. It was me all along, but I couldn't think of, so I went with the wrong one.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and let these two finish. I'll be quick. Favorite kill is Jack. For all the reasons, he's kind of the only kill. My least favorite kill is Sandy because she didn't actually fucking die. While it was visually cool, I thought it was unnecessary to have in there. That's why it's my least favorite. Visually stunning movie. I think the acting and the performances are great. I like the ideas and themes this movie tries to get across. Like, there's so much to like about this movie. I feel like the story really, really gets convoluted, bogged down towards the end. Like, there's a lot to latch on to. And again, just a beautifully made film, directed, shot, all that stuff. The music is phenomenal. So there's so much to give a thumbs up to on this film. It's really hard to give it a low score for me, even though I think the last 35 minutes or so just kind of tapers off, my opinion, although I do like the twist. All that being said, that made me give this movie the same score as Dustin, a flat 7.
Okay, so my favorite kill was actually fake Sandy, the stabbing scene. Didn't really like that happen, but it was my favorite scene, or favorite kill. So, like, my least favorite kill was real Sandy. Although I love me a throat slash, it bothered me that she wasn't already dead. Like Mike mentioned, you're dying of smoke inhalation in that house. I don't know. That bothered me. Anyway, for the first hour of this movie, I
don't know, man. I watched this movie last night called I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, and firefighters are very resilient.
Never heard of it. Balls and wieners all the way.
Great movie.
Movie's offensive as fuck now.
Okay,
Anyway.
so for the first hour of this movie, I really enjoyed it, and I was pulled in. But like I said, the more I watch it, the more questions I have. It's so well made, though. A lot of that's easily overlooked. You know, the inconsistencies. Wright, Anya Taylor-Joy, however you say it, Thomasin. Everyone really did such a great job. This is definitely worth the watch. Go watch it. I rated it a 7.25.
All right, my favorite kill is Jack. Love that scene. I love everything about the scene, from seeing Ellie's reflection in the knife. That's not even the right scene. Excuse me. Anywho, Jack's my favorite kill because he's a piece of shit and he deserved it. I'm getting the other part confused now. Anywho, least favorite kill, I'm just going to go with one of the random piece of crap guys that Sandy killed. You know, I think one guy got his lip slashed or whatever. I'll pick him.
I almost forgot about them. I almost forgot about that scene.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a little 2-second throw in. So I'll pick one of them. Thoughts on the movie? I think I've pretty much said how I feel. The three ladies are incredible. Anya Taylor-Joy, Thomasin, McKenzie, Diana Rigg. They do fantastic. A lot of things to like about this movie. It looks beautiful. The setting is amazing. Love the two twists like Dustin touched on. I think they're both really good. I mean, I touched on the things I didn't like already as well. The too much ghost. I didn't really care for all that. The ghost hands grabbing Ellie at the end. Didn't like that either. The library scene just felt too cliche. I can agree that it runs a little, maybe 5-10 minutes too long. You could probably cut some of it out. But I think it's a really good movie, worth a watch. Definitely worth a watch. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. I give it 8.25.
All right. So that gives us a composite score of 7.375. IMDb has it as a flat 7, so we're pretty close.
Nice.
Look at those geniuses at IMDb. Look at them.
Final thoughts, guys, before I just shout out the blood donors and Dustin can announce his pick for next week. Let's shout out these blood donors. Camper level reoccurring, Clayton J, Nina, Michelle Mirza, Andrew Ferguson, Carrie Adams, Horror Movie Crew Podcast, Alex Seligson, Eric Doolittle, Sean Irwin, and Brian Samick. Camp Counselor reoccurring, Hunter Nelson, Dennis Kennedy, Edwin Hernandez Gunn, Joe Swinford, Jennifer Davis from the Too Close to Home podcast, Heather Smith, Kyla Denise, all the way from Australia, Adrian Aiello, Jake Hambrick, Clay Moore, Karen, Matt Strickland, and Gail Kuntz. We have a final guide donor with a film review, and that is Missy Hutchison Wall. And we also have a legendary blood donor review, which we will be doing next week, Matt Strickland. Just want to say thank y'all for all of our blood donors. Really appreciate y'all. Dustin, announce your pick for later on this week.
Yeah, you said next week. I was going to say, not so fast, my friend. We'll be back in a couple days. But
hey, man, I don't know what's going on right now.
So if you guys remember when I was watching Jay and Silent Bob, I was like, Affleck's the bomb and Phantoms. Well, I had another moment like that a little bit before then. I was rewatching Harold and Kumar, and this week we're watching The Gift on HBO. Supposedly Katie Holmes shows her titties in this film. Anyway, so we're watching The Gift from 2000. That's not to be confused with The Gift from 2015 with Jason Bateman. Important distinction.
Very.
But I saw this movie years ago.
Very
really
different
liked
movie.
it. Yeah, very different.
May have
But,
accidentally started that one instead and texted you guys last night. Just saying.
but yeah,
Both are good, Brian. You should have just finished.
I saw this movie years and years ago with an ex-girlfriend. And it's one of those that, it's just stuck with me. I really think it's a very good movie. So I'm excited to break it down with you guys.
I'm excited. Wild ride, that movie. Wild ride.
Dustin, I love the way you're picking movies recently.
Well, also,
I'm glad this one's actually good, though.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true. But this one has an incredible cast. It has the GOAT Keanu Reeves, but it also has
awesome.
Giovanni Ribisi, Hilary Swank, Greg Kinnear, Katie Holmes. It's fantastic cast.
I'm in love with Katie Holmes. Oh, sorry.
The cast is very good in that movie. Looking forward to doing it in a couple of days. Just want to thank all of our fans again. Really appreciate y'all. And And stay tuned. Me and Brian are doing a little Cocaine Bear reaction and Pensacon review as well. So we're making up for missing last week. Appreciate all the support. You guys are awesome. Have a good one.
Keep Pop Anonymous.
Just want to remind everybody.